What's going on, folks? It's been reported that George Soros is going to step down from his foundation and his son is going to pick up where he left off. Is his son going to be more of the same? We'll read a Wall Street Journal article that showcases what to expect. With a simple YouTube search, I found a video that says Alex Soros, Heine's Pantheism, the Gay Science and the Death of God. That was one of the first things that came up. Gay science and death of God? Yikes. After that, we're going to talk about Trump's indictment and what that means for the election. I think I have a very interesting take on it that's true, but you're not going to see in that many places. And I saw Timcast News and Benny Johnson tweet out that there was some sort of pride parade that seems to be sponsored by Lockheed Martin, the defense contractor, which has pretty much just made this meme a reality. Just throw a rainbow flag on a war and weapons, and all of a sudden the left is marching along. It's truly incredible. It's going to be an action-packed show for you guys today. I hope you stay tuned for the whole thing. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. What's going on, folks? Today I have 3 stories for you today. The first one, I have a Wall Street Journal article about George Soros' son, Alex. He has officially stepped down. George, his son's taking over. So that begs the question, is he going to be better or worse than George Soros? What's really his style? And also, why did he get the position over his brother, who a lot of people thought were going to get it, but they ended up fighting Soros and his son, and then Alex got the position. So it's an interesting story. I highlighted and did my research to get you guys the most interesting parts of that Wall Street Journal article. So that's what I'm going to read first. Second story I'm going to talk about is there was a Lockheed Martin gay rally or something, and it's literally a meme come true. It was a joke, but I guess the joke was based on reality. So you just put a rainbow flag on weapons, and all of a sudden the left is marching with Lockheed Martin. It's pretty funny, the footage. And then the third story is the Trump indictment. I need to research more about it before I really speak on what it actually says. I've already done my first take the other day, but I want to talk about psychologically, how's it going to impact the election? Because there's multiple ways it's going to impact it. And I think it's an interesting narrative that a lot of people don't have. But let's get into the first story real quick, which is this. I'm going to show you 2 things real quick, the headline, and then also just a little bit of research I did and found a video of a long speech of Soros' son, Alex, because there's not that much stuff. Here it is. So on YouTube, I tried to find some videos because I wanted to do research. And the first one I found, it says Alex Soros, Heine's Pantheism, the Gay Science and the Death of God. I didn't feel like listening to the whole hour and a half, but the gay science is gay now. And here's the Wall Street Journal article that I'm going to read from right now. It says George Soros hands control to his 37-year-old son. I'm more political is the headline. In his first interview as successor, Alex Soros says that the family's $25 billion philanthropic enterprise will boost its support for voting and abortion rights. So that's his narrative. Here's the thing, though. When the left says voting rights, people have the right to vote. So what do they mean? Abortion is obvious, but with the left, it's like there's no stop. It's like 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Ralph Northam's talking about mid-birth. They don't seem to have a line for the slippery slope. But when it comes to voting rights, they're always gaslighting. People have the right to vote. Women have the right to vote, every ethnicity. Now Democrats are talking about illegal immigrants who aren't even citizens here voting in certain areas of the city. What are you talking about? Do you really mean voting rights? Because everyone has the right to vote. Or are you talking about people not showing ID to vote and making it just like insanely easy to, not have the most fair elections in my view. But anyway, let's get to the article. I've highlighted the interesting parts, left out some of the boring parts. You can read it yourself, but here's what I want to read, just a few stuff to you that I thought were intriguing. So the article starts, it says, Alex said he was concerned about the prospect of Donald Trump's return to the White House, suggesting a significant financial role for the Soros organization in 2024 presidential race. As much as I would love to get money out of politics, as long as the other side is doing it, we will have to do it too, he said in an interview at the fund managers New York offices. In contrast with some of the left, Alex believes that speech on college campuses and elsewhere has become too restricted. I have some differences with my generation in regard to free speech and other things. I grew up watching Bill Maher before bed, after all, he said, referring to the TV personality and First Amendment advocate. Some doubted Soros 92 would ever cede his top spot while alive, but he did. So this is, I mean, I don't, I'll go through the whole article. I don't want to stop too many times, but he claims that he likes Bill Maher and he's more First Amendment than a lot of people in his generation. That seems to be a good sign. I don't know if he really means that or his organization will follow through, but it's definitely not the worst thing I've ever heard. According to this article, the selection of Alex, a hip hop fan and a New York Jets devotee, was once a long shot. Early on, Alex barely spoke up in meetings and was best known for his high flying social lifestyle. Gorgeous models, NBA pals, and hide and seek at his mansion. Welcome to the lavish life of investor George Soros' Playboy son, said a Daily Mail article in 2016. So he wasn't supposed to get the job, according to a lot of people, but his brother fought with Soros. We'll talk about it later. And then they ended up giving it to the more, I guess, party son. I don't know. George Soros built his fortune in the 1970s and 80s as a pioneering hedge fund manager who placed wagers in global stock, bond, and currency markets based on his forecasts of economic and political shifts. He made investments after sifting through a web of information, including intelligence from a network of political and business contacts. A single bet that the British pound would fall in 1992 yielded his fund more than $1 billion in gains. So a lot of people know that Soros gets involved in politics. And the interesting thing is, since George Soros is Jewish, if you ever criticize George Soros, you're going to have 100 people calling you anti-Semitic. So Soros meddles in politics all over the world, including America. But if you notice it, they will claim that you hate every Jew that ever lived, which obviously is not true. But that's just the game they play. It's like he's meddling in politics all over. He's made his fortune, like they said, basically betting on currencies to fail in some cases. Some have accused him of manipulating those currencies and crashing certain economies because he has so much money. In smaller economies, when he does meddle in that, there's multiple articles saying that he's, when he bets against the house, it's different because he has so much money. He's actually able to sometimes crash the house. That's according to reports I've read. So long story short, the dude does a lot. He meddles in politics, social issues, tries to socially engineer America in a direction that he considers liberal. I would consider not liberal according to textbook definition, something more nefarious. But if you ever speak on it or notice it, of course, the media will call you an anti-Semite 1,000 times, but is what it is. They use that word like racist, sexist, xenophobe. It's a word that pretty much just expands to whatever they don't want you to talk about to make it seem like you're a hateful person. I'm going to get back to the article, but I had someone I haven't talked to in years, someone that I was always friendly with. They messaged me and said, "Hey, you're an anti-Semite D, screw you." Like, and then they gave me some blessing, like some Hebrew blessing. And it's like, I messaged the person and I said, "Hey, can you name one thing I've done? Like, what did I do that bothered you?" I don't even know what I said. And he wouldn't answer. It's like, that's what they use with the word anti-Semitism. It's like people will accuse you of hating an entire group of people when you don't, or saying something hateful when you never did, because sometimes the truth is perceived as hate speech. If you speak about certain patterns or certain things, the left will call you a racist or a sexist or anti-Semite. They'll call the left the right anti-Semite also. And the same I find when I talk about things that Trump did because he's such a beloved politician. When you point out what he did, all of a sudden you hate him. It's hate speech now because people hate to hear what goes against whatever they like. So just something I've noticed with Soros, but that's just the world we live in. It is what it is. It's just sad though when someone acts like you hate everyone and you're like, dude, this is you're trying to bully me into like, I don't even know, but whatever. God bless. Let's get back to the article about Soros, George. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, George's philanthropy focused on buttressing democracies in the former Soviet bloc and elsewhere. In 2004, he drew backlash in the U.S. when he said that preventing President George W. Bush's reelection would be the central focus of his life. He backed Barack Obama in 2008 presidential campaign and sparked further criticism for his support of needle exchanging programs like the legalization of marijuana for medical use. So I want to say this before I move on about George Soros. This is something that people say in the Republican Party as if it means what they think it means. Like at one point, Soros didn't like George Bush. Does that mean that George Bush was like amazing? I don't think so. But was he better than the Democrat? I don't know. I'm not really a George Bush fan, and I don't know that much about Who did he run against? Al Gore. I mean, Al Gore sucks too. It's one of those like lesser of two evils. But a lot of people in Republican politics, they're like, oh, if Soros doesn't like you, that must mean you're real. Does that mean George Bush was real? Everybody hates George Bush. Or, I don't know, just something I noticed where I'm like, he also supports medical marijuana use. A lot of people like marijuana. Some people don't. Why would George Soros support marijuana? I don't know. And why did he hate George Bush so much? What was the left winger going to do for him? I guess get in liberal judges. That's the one thing Republicans seem to do, is they get in more conservative judges. As much as federal politics, like they act like they're going to do so much, they really don't. The main battle that I see that actually is tangible is when Trump's in, the judges will tend to be more conservative. When Bush is in, the judges will tend to be more conservative. When Obama or Biden's in, the judges tend to be extremely liberal. So, maybe that's why he's so interested in the, Obama Bush thing, but I don't know. Going on. In 2018, George, who was born in Hungary, pulled his foundation out of the country in 2018 after it became a target of Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban is a right-wing politician in Germany, and he really put the kibosh on what Soros was doing. So Soros pulled his thing out of Hungary. The invectives have since swelled. Last month, Elon Musk tweeted that George Soros reminds him of Magneto, a Marvel comic book character who, like George, is a Holocaust survivor. In response to criticism of the comparison, Musk added that George wants to erode the very fabric of civilization, drawing a rebuke from the Anti-Defamation League. Of course, they come to his defense. First of all, I had no idea Magneto from the Marvel book, it was a Holocaust survivor. I guess I'm not that into comic books, but I didn't know that. Also, it's like, Elon Musk said, quote, Soros wants to erode the very fabric of civilization. And then he gets attacked by left-wing Jewish organizations for saying that. I mean, interesting that Elon says this type of stuff. It's pretty fascinating to have the richest person who now owns a social media company saying that. Bold stuff. I appreciate it. Soros said, I'm the go-to man when they want to blame someone. Of course you are. Yeah, people just blame you spontaneously because you're such a victim. It's not because you're meddling in politics and currencies all over the world. That can't be it. It's got to be that people are just pointing to you randomly. You have totally nothing. I mean, such a joke. All right, here's an interesting part of the Wall Street Journal story that I'm going to share with you guys, because his son, Jonathan, seemed to be the son that was going to get the job, but he had a fight with George, and then George Soros gave the company to his other son, or the foundation. I don't know what they'd call it. Nonprofit, Yeah, I'm sure no one's making profits there. So he's like, the buzzword in Washington, for those who don't know, is like nonprofit. I don't know what it is with the taxes or the rules, but I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money from nonprofits. They're like, it's a nonprofit. Well, how much is your salary? Oh, it's, I'm making $300K a year. It's like, how are you making $300K a year at a nonprofit? I guess the company makes no profit, or the foundation makes no profit, but they have no problem paying a lot of high salaries to a lot of people. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm not business savvy enough to really crack into that code, nor do I want to, but just interesting. Anyway, back to the story. I expected Jonathan to be the one, said Aria Nair, president of OSF from 1993 to 2012, which is Open Society Foundation. Jonathan also assumed, that's the other son who didn't get it, that he would be tapped to lead the Soros organizations, though he understood his father's predilection for reversing course. I always knew that he could change his mind, he said. As a trader, it's one thing he's most famous for. Their differences upended the succession plan. George was impulsive. Jonathan was analytical and contemplative. Jonathan was respectful of George, but he pushed back when he disagreed with his father's decisions, according to people who worked with them. When they butted heads about the two senior hiring choices, George felt his authority challenged. Jonathan felt undermined. Looking to keep peace in the family, Jonathan left the Soros investment business back in 2011. His father soured about picking him to lead the foundation. We didn't get on certain points, George said. That became evident to both of us, particularly to him, when he wanted to be out on his own. We ended our business relationship on pretty good terms, Jonathan said. I was disappointed, but not regretful. So I guess that the son that was really supposed to take over the company would disagree with George Soros, and George Soros didn't like any people disagreeing with him. Understood, but that makes me think that Alex will probably do what George used to do. If you had a son who was disagreeing with some decisions and you basically oust him for the other son, something tells me that he's going to be very similar to George, because it sounds like that's why he was chosen. Just going to read a few more interesting parts of the article, then we're going to talk about it, then move on to the next story. A little bit about Alex Soros, the one who is now in charge of Open Society Foundation. Alex grew closer to his father and his mother after his mother filed. Alex grew closer to his father after his mother filed for divorce in 2004. He was an 18-year-old New York freshman at the time. He took his fathering more seriously. Alex said about George, he earned a PhD in history from University of California, Berkeley. He cared little about finance and couldn't persuade his father to watch football. Instead, they spent hours discussing ideas in global politics. His thesis topic, Jewish Dionysus, Nietzsche, and the politics of literature, thrilled his father. For Alex, it was football, philosophy, and politics in that order. So he did his thesis on the Jewish Dionysus of Nietzsche, and the politics of literature. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I guess George Soros was fascinated in that topic, and it's not even worth talking about because they'll claim that you hate everybody, but whatever. This is the last part of the article that I found interesting. It says, while criticism of George Soros sometimes includes anti-Semitic tropes, of course, already playing the victim, the Soros Foundation hasn't supported many Jewish causes. Alex, by contrast, has visited Israel several times, and he celebrates such Jewish religious holidays as Rosh Hashanah and Passover, which his father doesn't. Alex is more focused on domestic politics than his father, he said. Alex is helping Democrats appeal to Latino voters and improve turnout among Black voters. He has urged Democrat politicians to better hone their messaging, broadening their party's appeal. Our side has to be better about being more patriotic and inclusive, he said. Just because someone votes Trump doesn't mean they're lost or racist. And then it says he's like shy. He doesn't do public settings as much. So I'm going to open up the chat, see what you guys are saying. Long story short, just to summarize that before I give my opinion, seems like Alex, it was like the more fun one, having fun doing his thing. The other brother disagreed with George, so he gave the company to Alex. Alex seems like he celebrates Jewish holidays more than George, for what it's worth. According to that article, he likes football and stuff and rap music. And he understands that the left, he seems a lot more shrewd just based off of his quotes. Like, he listens to Bill Maher. He believes in the First Amendment. It sounds like Alex understands that the left has lost the moral high ground when it comes to free speech. And either he seems like getting that high ground back from the right. The left used to be the party of free speech, and it used to be conservatives wanting to censor more based on Christianity. Now it's like totally reversed. I think Republicans are liberals. Like, they don't even have conservative, I would say conviction anymore. It's just kind of like classic liberals, the Republicans, and the left has gone, censorship, authoritarian on some topics. And Alex understands that. Do I think that he really believes in free speech? I have no idea. Never met him, never spoke to him, haven't really looked at that many videos of him, but he seems shrewd. He's like, we're making mistakes here. We're losing Trump people and patriotic people. Sounds like he's trying to rebrand what they're doing and be like American flag, First Amendment, and then, funnel people to get their abortions or whatever. A lot of people want abortions, or they want the right to have abortions, or they want their kids to have abortions. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just trying to analyze it. I've heard from a lot of people, they like every Republican issue, but they really desperately want their kids to get abortions or something. They still believe in free speech. They want the border closed. So the Democrats of the future, and maybe Alex, he sees these topics and like, hey, the left is going too far on the speech thing. They're going too far on the anti-America thing. They're going too far on the, everyone who likes Trump is terrible and dumb. So he's trying to basically get people on his side. My final thoughts about this topic is George Soros, as much as they cry victim or say that you hate everybody when you talk about them, or you notice patterns, so you must be hateful or nasty or whatever the lie is, he is who he is. Like, George Soros chose to use his wealth and, first of all, gain his wealth based on betting on currencies and basic trends of countries. And then he uses that money to manipulate politics in America and all over the world, manipulate social issues, using it to push his agenda of the world. His foundation is called Open Society Foundation. Do they want to build a wall? Do they want an America that has a border and a country? Do they want voter ID? Not really. So, there's a reason that Elon Musk and others say that he's trying to destroy the fabric of civilization, because there's some things that really are just basic common sense if you care about a country. And according to my analysis and others, the Soros, foundation doesn't really share my values. I don't think they cared that much about this country, in my view. And it doesn't seem like they want to help ease the tension and make this country safe and secure. It seems like quite the opposite. When organizations and PACs that he backs or whatever they're called start to, get involved in judge races, there's two things I think that need to be said about this. One, the right should do this. If Soros spends a million or 2 million on a judge in LA or San Francisco and he wins the election, Republicans have money too. Don't let them kid you. They have mega donors that give even more money than Soros in some election. The Adelson family is famous for giving a lot of money. There's a lot of money that Trump gets, and Republicans, and what's that lady's name? The Ronna Romney McDaniel or whatever. They get a lot of money too. So where are they spending their money? Why don't they spend their money on judges in local elections also to counter what Soros is doing? But two, based on the judges and the people that Soros backs, it doesn't seem like he wants law and order and safety and security. It seems like he's pushing this false narrative that is making our cities way less safe. And if you ever say that, they'll call it a conspiracy or anti-Semitism. But, I don't know why he's doing it. I'm not trying to dive into his heart and his mind, but people don't have to agree with it. If you donate billions of your dollars and run multi-billion-dollar organizations and you're trying to manipulate society in some sort of way, whether it's right or wrong, people don't have to like it. And if they don't like what you're doing, that doesn't necessarily mean they hate you or hate everyone. It's just that's what's going on. So now that he's handing on his thing to his son, people are wondering, is his son better? Is his son worse? A lot of people were hoping, because he was so old, that eventually it would just end, but it's not going to end. He's passed it on to his son. And, I see his son as a lot shrewder and smoother with how he's thinking. So I don't necessarily think it's going to get better, but it may get trickier, and we'll see. Hopefully it does get better, but I don't think it is. I'm sure most people here don't trust it. And it sounds like it's just going to be a lot of the more of the same. That money's going to get passed down. The organization is going to stay intact, and they're going to keep doing what they want to do to the world and the country. And then I guess, I don't know, crying victim and blaming you if you disagree with it. God bless everybody. God bless even them. Pray for this country. And I guess the best thing I could say is Republicans and actual patriots who love this country need to figure out a way to, I guess, counter what he's doing when it comes to local elections and societal manipulation. I always say this, but I feel like Democrats play evil chess and Republicans are professional losers. They pretend like they care so much and they raise money and they do rallies. And when push comes to shove, it seems like Democrats execute their power with authority and Republicans are just playing catch up because they're like mini Democrats. I don't think we really have too much strategy, but that will change. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And I'm going to talk about a few things in a second, but real quick, I just want to say to you guys, I appreciate you. Link is in the bio. You guys know I don't do very many sponsorships. I never do anything that I don't actually believe and wouldn't use myself. And I want to show you, this is from American Hartford Gold. They've decided to work with the channel. I appreciate it. And here's just a video and a few things. So that's the number and the text and the links in the bio if you want to check it out. They sell gold, they sell silver, they'll deliver it to your door. I didn't mention it last time, but it's worth mentioning. It's backed by private equity and they will buy back your metals. So they not only sell them, but they'll buy them back. There's a buyback guarantee. They do free shipping, free insurance, tax-free transaction. They are the largest retail gold and silver dealer in America. They've delivered almost $2 billion in gold and silver. I think gold and silver sells itself. Obviously, people know what those are. I don't have to explain it. There's a lot of people that will sell you something and be like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die and you need to get this because of that, or you need my... I'm not trying to do that. It's gold, it's silver. You know what it is. My audience is smart. I don't think you need a fear-mongery sales pitch in order to understand what gold and silver are. It's interesting to own these precious metals if you want to own them physically or not own them physically, or figure out a way to do it in some sort of a long-term IRA. They do all that. That's the number. It's 844-399-2448. Text DREAM, DREAM, to 65532 if you would like. Check the link. It's going to be in the bio. And if you're ever interested in buying gold or silver, but you didn't know how, and you, like myself, this is where you can get it. American Hartford Gold. Thank you guys for supporting my show, and I appreciate you. It's an easy sell. It's something that I want to get myself. So check it out, American Hartford Gold. Thank you guys for being here, and let's move on to the next story real quick. The story is a meme turned into reality. Lockheed Martin is a defense contractor. Obviously, they're heavily involved in weapons manufacturing, etc. And the left is marching with them because they put a rainbow flag on their stuff. Let's look at it. I saw Benny Johnson tweet this, and it was from Timcast News. So I like to always just give credit to where I saw it, just because. Here it is. Hold on. I cut off the music because I didn't want a copyright strike, but you can see it's like a rainbow gay Lockheed Martin rally or something. I don't really know. It's like, gay month sponsored by Lockheed Martin. And people are like, what does Lockheed Martin do? And it's like, I don't know, war and bombs and stuff. And they're like, do we like that? You're like, I don't know. Can you can you put a rainbow flag on it? If you put a rainbow flag on it, the left will buy anything. Seriously, you just wrap it in a rainbow flag, and it's like, yeah, that they agree with our values for sure. I saw this. I mean, this was on Twitter. The CIA is saying, look at that, pride, CIA. They're making like a little crossword puzzle out of it. CIA's 2023 theme for Pride Month is welcome, wellness, equity, LGBTQ plus, community, openness, me. Pride Month is an occasion for all of us at the agency to pay tribute to the rich history, community, and mission contributions of our LGBTQ plus officers. So the CIA wants to welcome you to a very happy Pride Month. Isn't Pride Month fun? You got the CIA, you got Lockheed Martin, you got rainbow protests from, it's like, man, this is dope. We'll get some Raytheon in there. That was the running joke of the last couple of years, and they just take every joke and meme and they just make it into a reality. It's really that easy to fool the left. It's so sad. It's like they used to care so much about money and politics, and big pharma's corrupt, and Occupy Wall Street. And then it takes Goldman Sachs. They just put a rainbow flag in some sort of RuPaul-esque event, or they sponsor some pride parade, and all of a sudden the left has no conviction to any political thing that they used to care about. It's objectively insane. And I'm trying to be fun. I'm not trying to be a boring guy. Sometimes my Twitter, it seems like super annoying because I'm just texting stuff and I can't make jokes, etc. I don't know. Sometimes I annoy myself. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, this is such an annoying platform. I'm not trying to be annoying. It's just like, as things progress, we're supposed to be getting smarter and better. And I just don't feel like we really are. I'm grateful. We have technology. I live a great life. I'm super, super grateful to be able to be here. But it's hard for me to think that people are getting smarter. Like, I'm pretty sure liberals were smarter in 2012. Like, they were like, Goldman Sachs is corrupt. Yes. The banks are corrupt. They're scamming us. Yes. Wars are bad. Yes. And then you fast forward 10 years and they're wrapping all of these things they used to be against in a rainbow flag. And then all of a sudden, they don't even talk about it anymore. And they're wearing masks, and they can't even stand up to the pharma lobby, get the money out of politics. But when it comes to big pharma, who has taken over our entire government, the television, everything, our food supply, we are like loyal robots supporting big pharma. Is the left smarter than they were 15 years ago? I'm going to have to say no. And here's the sad part, because it's easy to dunk on the left. See, aren't we having fun now? People love this stuff. If I only dunked on the left, I'd probably make 3 times as much money. I'd probably be able to do so much more. It's okay though. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's easy to dunk on the left. That's why people do it. They've created an entire economy just making fun of the left. And there's something there. It's legitimately insane. And it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy stuff. But my thing is this: as bad as the left has gotten, like the left has gotten 5 times worse than they were in 2007, like terrible. The right feels like it's even worse than it was 3 or 4 years ago. And the reason is, I think that Trump woke a lot of people up. I think that Trump did a lot, but then he ended up not doing a lot. And I think that when you look at what he did when he hired his Supreme Court justices, as much as people talk about the Bushes and the neocons, Trump hired worse judges than George Bush even picked. Like Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh sided with lockdowns. And we knew that they were going to do that. Like people had tweeted, including myself, before she got in. I'm like, why is Trump picking this lady? When she was the nominee, you could go back to my Twitter before she was nominated, and I said, she's pro-lockdown. Her record is public. There's political articles about it. Why is Trump picking a pro-lockdown Supreme Court justice? Long story short, I look at some of the right now, and I'm like, is the right getting smarter, or are they getting weirder? And I'm not knocking you guys and stuff. It's just, let me give you an example. This is Rick Grinnell. After I just showed the left like marching with Lockheed Martin with rainbow flags, here's Donald Trump. I forget what position that he had in foreign policy. I think he was some head, like, I'd have to look it up what Rick Grinnell is. I will when this video plays, but here's Rick Grinnell with his pitch that Republicans are way gayer than Democrats, and Republicans, because he's gay, Biden hates the gays, and it's the Republicans that are pushing gay stuff more. Take a watch.
President Trump has done more to advance the rights of gays and lesbians in 3 years than Joe Biden did in 40 plus years in Washington. For 4 decades, Joe Biden has attacked the LGBT community. As a U.S. Senator, Biden supported Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the Defense of Marriage Act. Biden voted to cut off federal funds to any school that teaches acceptance of homosexuality. Biden said again and again that he was against marriage equality.
Senator, do you support gay marriage?
No. Marriage is between a man and a woman.
The United States Senator, Joe Biden, said gay people couldn't receive security clearances because we would be a security risk. Joe must have been terrified when Donald Trump appointed me as acting director of national intelligence. The fact that I'm gay didn't even faze Donald Trump.
So yeah, he just said it. He was the director of national intelligence, high-level position. So as easy as it is to make fun of the left, like, dude, they're marching with rainbow flags. It's like everybody on the right is trying to fight the fact that they're pushing the gay agenda way too hard in America. And Rick Grinnell's like, Biden hates the gays. Biden's really against the gays. It's us pushing the gay agenda really hard. And it's like, this is why politics is so weird and fake to me. I want to read this article from Glenn Greenwald for what it's worth. He also is gay, but he's like a real good journalist. I like Glenn Greenwald, no offense, more than I like Rick Grinnell. God bless the guy. It's just, I think Glenn Greenwald is super real with this stuff. He wrote an article about Grinnell. It said, Trump officials led by then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Ambassador Rick Grinnell persuaded and coerced the new Ecuadorian president to withdraw Assange's asylum protection, clearing the way for London police to enter the building and arrest him on April 11th, 2019. So this is where the right becomes similar to the left. You wrap a rainbow flag in a Lockheed Martin rally, and all of a sudden the left is with Lockheed Martin. You wrap a rainbow flag around somebody in Donald Trump's administration, and all of a sudden, nobody talks about this. They're like, well, Biden hates the gay. It's like, what? And the truth is, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange meant a lot to Trump's campaign. Obviously, he's never met Julian or anything, but, he ran WikiLeaks. When he got in office, he stopped talking about WikiLeaks. He's like, I don't know what that is. And, he hires Mike Pompeo and Rick Grinnell. As I've told people before, this is more in depth. According to Glenn Greenwald, who's probably one of the best journalists left in the world, it was Rick Grinnell who persuaded Ecuadorian's president to withdraw Assange's asylum. The reason Assange is being extra persecuted, they're trying to kill him in prison, is because of people like Mike Pompeo and Rick Grinnell. But similar to the left, as much as people make fun of the left, you wrap a rainbow flag in Trump's administration also, and all of a sudden people never talk about this stuff because it's not sexy. It's not like right versus left, or, everyone's a rhino except for the rhinos that he works with. So I just wanted to bring that up, not to play he said, she said, but yeah, the left is totally far gone. You just need to wrap an LGBTQ plus flag in anything and they'll buy it and swallow it. No pun intended. And on the right, it's not really that much different. All these people are trying to take on the fact that this has consumed every corporation ever. And just like the left pushes it too far, instead of the right being like, no, we're trying to stop it, Trump hires people that are like, we're even gayer than Joe Biden. I mean, you think he doesn't even like gay people. What are you talking about, dude? The guy puts an LGBTQ plus flag in the White House. Like, now that's the new narrative, that the right's gayer than the left and the right's pushing gay stuff more. It's like, what? God bless everybody be yourself or whatever. But I don't know. It just like, I see politics is so fake right now, and it's hard to not see it. Let me know what you guys think. I'll look at the comments for a few seconds, and then I'm going to get back to the thing. Someone said, LOL, crazy. Joe opposed gay marriage. I know, but here's what I'm going to say before I move to the next video. Is that the Republican talking point now? Like, what are you trying to prove now that they're pushing it at the kids? Now that it's like flying in the White House? Now that they're, doing a whole month to celebrate gay sex or being gay? Like, that's your counter. Ronna Romney McDaniel's like, Pride Month, yeah. And then like Rick Grinnell's like, it's really Biden who hates gay people. No, these are just politicians being politicians. When it was convenient to scam Christians and conservatives and pretend like they had these moral convictions against gay marriage, they did it. Biden did it. Obama did it. Hillary did it. They all did it. Now that it's convenient to do the other one and it goes with their agenda, now they don't. Yeah, we get that Biden has no convictions, but in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. The thing that parents want to hear right now, conservatives want to hear, most of the country who quite frankly is sick of it, like even a lot of Democrats and moderates think that they're doing too much. Everybody sees that. What's the message that actually is going to reach people? Is it like, this is a little much, or is it like, yeah, Biden's not gay enough, we're even gayer? Like, I don't know. That this is a game that Republicans play. They're like, you're the real racist. And it's like, dude, can you guys do something when you have power besides, trying to get Julian Assange locked up in prison? Like, I don't know. If you don't get it at this point, then it is what it is. But I got another story, so I don't want to harp on it too much. To me, is that the game we're gonna play? Oh, they're the ones who hate gay people. No, they don't hate gay people, and I know that you don't hate them either. It's just like, what are we doing here? We're just playing like gotcha moments. Yeah, Bill Clinton used to lock people up. Yeah, now liberals let like murderers out of jail. So what do you want? Do you want to just like make, what? You get it or you don't get it. But let's move on. Third story of the day. I want to talk about not the indictment right now because I have to read more into it. It's not even unsealed in most cases. I obviously think the double standards are obvious. I made a video on that with the Trump thing. But this is an angle that a lot of people aren't talking about. What does this mean for the election? We're going to weigh out all the things, but psychologically, does this hurt Trump? And the answer is, before I even start, I'll just give a spoiler alert. It helps Trump tremendously in every single way, unless he gets arrested. If he doesn't get arrested, this is going to win him the Republican primary, and it's going to make it so there's no conversation around it. But if they take him out of the race, or, this could hurt him in the general a little bit. But let's listen to Judge, I don't know how to say his name. I want to say Neapolitan, but it's like Judge Knapp. I'll just summarize it. He mentions this. I watched him go over the indictment a little bit, but he mentioned this at the end of what it means and when it's going to go on. So let's look at it.
Will he actually be tried? I think he will be tried. He's not going to plead guilty to any of this. It would be catastrophic for his personal freedom and for his political aspirations. When would the trial happen? In the federal system, about a year between the time of indictment and the time of trial. So we're talking about June of 2024. That's a month before the Republican National Convention, which of course would be highly relevant for Trump if he is still in the race by.
So that's Judge Knapp, his show Judging Freedom. I think he did a pretty good breakdown of the indictment. I'm still learning more before I really like drop a way on what it means and what it is in that sense. But Judge Knapp, he understands the law a little better. He said that if this is going to continue on the path it is, it usually takes a year. So it's going to be had in June, right before the convention. To me, this is showing that this is the narrative. Like, and I'm going to show a poll in a second to prove more of what I'm saying. If this doesn't take Trump out of the race, and if this kind of just goes over like a nothing burger and they just kind of like slap him on the wrist, this helps him absolutely tremendously. It's not hurting at all. It's actually protecting him from anyone really having any other narrative, because before the Alvin Bragg arrest, I'm going to show you in polls, Trump was losing to DeSantis in a lot of people's polls. And I'm not saying I fully believe polls, but everybody has seen that the swing is like in Trump's favor, because it's like, yo, I got to support Trump now. This makes me want to support Trump. So all I'm saying is psychologically, this is really basically handing the Republican nominee to Trump on a silver platter. It's like you can't really question him now because now you're going to seem unloyal or you're a Democrat or it's not time for it. And conveniently, this is going to start before the primary even starts, all the way through to basically when voting is. So it's going to dominate the headlines and it's going to just keep resurfacing as like Trump's a victim, stand behind Trump. You have people like Charlie Kirk and others. They're trying to suggest everybody needs to get out of his way and just endorse him. Like everybody's so fake. It's like there should be no primary, said the guy, my guest on last week. Like nobody should even run against him now because of this. And he's swung in the polls like 40%. So psychologically, whether you love Trump and you want to vote for him, you like DeSantis and want to vote for him, you don't care, you want to vote for RFK. The truth is this is helping him tremendously on like every single level as long as it keeps him in the race. And I want to show you two polls from the Hodge twins that kind of show this. I know that this is just a Twitter poll, but you have to understand the Hodge twins have a very conservative base. I like them a lot. This just shows you how the switch happened because of this persecution. And this is just true. This is why he's leading so high in the polls and why he's got such a massive advantage right now. Let's look. So this was before the Alvin Bragg arrest. This was November 2022. Hodge twins said, who would you rather vote for president in 2024? DeSantis had 62% of the vote and Trump had about 35%. So even on Hodge twins' conservative page, DeSantis was up like almost 30 points on Trump in their poll, which had over 140,000 people. And then after the Alvin Bragg arrest, like a couple weeks after, Hodge twins said, who are we thinking now for 2024? And 64% said Trump this time, and 27% said DeSantis. So whether people like to admit it or not, this is just the truth. And I'm trying to analyze it analytically and psychologically outside of what you might believe. This is the truth. Before the Alvin Bragg arrest, the polls were very deadlocked. A lot of top conservative pages were preferring DeSantis more than Trump. Why? Multiple reasons. DeSantis had spent years after he did make mistakes at the beginning like Trump did. DeSantis decided to basically champion all these conservative values, the school stuff, the vaccine stuff, and he started speaking on it and making it his entire thing. Trump didn't do that. He kind of dropped the ball a little bit. It's more about him and his story, and he's selling the vaccine, and he didn't really care that much. You know, he didn't passionately stand up for people from 2021 to 2023. He wasn't giving these huge speeches about mandates. It was like, my vaccine was so great, I'm against mandates or whatever, but his energy just wasn't there. And DeSantis was becoming the true de facto leader of the Republican Party. So everybody was kind of feeling it. They're like, listen, I like Trump, I voted for Trump, but DeSantis is crushing him right now. Everybody saw it. I mean, why do you think Hodge twins poll had DeSantis 60% and Trump in the 30s? This is not a left wing or a rhino base. It swung like 60 points after the Alvin Bragg thing. Why? Because that's the psychological impact of Trump getting arrested. It hands him the Republican primary on a silver platter. It goes from Trump's been weak on vaccines. Trump's kind of weak on lockdowns. We forgive him, but he still doesn't admit his mistakes. He hires bad. He's kind of acting like a clown. He complains about Bill Barr every day on True Social, despite the fact that he hired him and takes no accountability. You know, I'm kind of tired of it. Everybody was feeling that. The polls were massively going in DeSantis' favor, at least pretty gridlocked, even in the mainstream ones. And the second that Alvin Bragg comes out and says Trump's getting arrested, Trump flies to New York City, you know, hangs out with them for 20 minutes, whatever it's called, an arraignment, or I don't know what they do, take his thumbprints, take his information. Then Trump gets back on a plane and flies back to Mar-a-Lago, where all of your favorite compromised influencers were sitting there to swallow down Trump steaks and take selfies with Trump that they could share 30 times on their, you know, Instagram before they're selling Trump t-shirts. And then all of a sudden the polls swung massively. That's just what happened. So, you know, now as the months are going on, the polls never went back. And the fact that Trump's getting persecuted again, now he's swinging up in the polls higher. And I find it fascinating that Judge Knapp said these take about a year. So is this narrative going to go away, or is it going to be something that lingers over the Republican primary? It's going to dominate the primary. And as somebody that tries to, I understand that I do have opinions. You might not agree. And sometimes I might have a little bit of an attitude. I have self-awareness. I get it. I do try to do as fair analysis as I can, even if it goes against Trump, like I've been doing since the, you know, spending bills and Operation Warp Speed. I try to do real journalism and analysis. The thing that I noticed was right at that exact point, people started changing their tune from, oh, we finally understand what you've been talking about with Trump. We kind of see it, to like, you can't say that now. And this has been said to me multiple times by high level influencers and people. Of course, they can't bully me and control me, but they've tried to and said, in 2019, don't talk about Trump and DeSantis passing these weird speech bills because like it's just not time now. Wait till after the election. And then in 2020, it's like, we need to support him against Biden, so we can't criticize the bipartisan lockdown, and we have to ignore it. And then after the election, it's like, hey, let's not talk about the lockdown stuff and all this sketchy stuff because like we got to wait till January 6th. Trump's going to, do a rally and speak, and maybe Mike Pence will overturn the election. And then after January, a lot of people were like, yo, wait until August. Mike Lindell's going to do a 39-hour cyber symposium or whatever he's doing, and then it's like, well, let's wait till this. And then finally there's no victim narrative for Trump for like 6 months, and everybody was starting to wake up. I'm going to show that poll again just to show you. Everybody was finally getting it. Those over 100,000 people that lean conservative that were like, listen, I'm not telling you to love DeSantis with all your heart, but it was getting clear that Trump just was a shell of who he once was. Everyone was starting to listen finally for a few months. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the Alvin Bragg thing happened, the polls just swung in the other direction. And you had people throw up their hands and say, I have to vote for Trump now. If he's getting persecuted, he must be a good guy. He must be the one. I don't care about what he didn't do because I think he'll do it this time, or I'll make an excuse for it. And that's just how the polls swung. So now I'm going to say what I believe are the few different possibilities of what's happening. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the Democrats are really doing, but I can narrow it down to about 3 likely scenarios. Let's start with the one that people think it is and are hoping. They think that Democrats really hate Trump and they want to arrest him and they want to throw him in jail, or they want to prevent him from running and they want to get him out of the race somehow or hinder his race. It's a possibility. I'm not a liar. I don't have all the info, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm 100% sure. I'm not. I'll tell you when I'm 100% sure about something, but I'm not about this. That's the scenario that everybody's hoping it is. They hope that Trump is the really, really good guy that threatens the deep state the most, and the reason that they're coming after him is because he's a threat to them and they want to stop him from running. So that's psychologically making people that didn't want to vote for Trump vote for him. And he swung from 20 to 40% in certain polls because of that one singular topic. Trump didn't right any of his wrongs about the COVID stuff. He's only gotten worse. He pathologically lies. He's now taken a Democrat CNN stance. I don't think he's going to hire anybody good. He doesn't have any good people in his corner, really. But it doesn't, none of that matters. There's no self-accountability. He's the victim. He's the persecuted. So I'm going to vote for him based on this idea that if he gets in office, he's the real threat. He's going to want, vindication, and they're going after him to take him out of the race. And there's a possibility that they really do want him out of the race, right? Now let's weigh out the other options. Democrats are not as stupid as people think. Do you think they don't know that this is going to raise him 40% in the polls? You think that they don't know that this is going to get him record number of fundraising? He was having trouble fundraising. Now he gets record amount of fundraising after the Alvin Bragg. Everybody goes from saying, I think DeSantis might be a little better, to like, Trump has to be the guy. And anybody who likes DeSantis now must be a rhino, even though there's rhinos behind Trump too. But I have double standards now and it doesn't matter. So the poll swung. Do you think the Democrats have never done that? Well, let's use our brain and also evidence that we have. The 2016 emails that they told you not to look out without Chris Cuomo's help showed that they had something called a Pied Piper strategy. They thought that Trump, Ben Carson, and others were the extreme weak candidates. So the Democrat media or apparatus was purposely elevating them, thinking that either that's who they wanted there for one reason, or that that was an easy beat for Hillary Clinton. So it's not a theory at this point that Democrats might do something like that. It's not a conspiracy theory like, oh, Anomaly, you're so crazy. You just hate Trump and you're just saying that. No, I'm using evidence that the Democrats already have done that within the last 10 years. It's in their wheelhouse of ideas to pick the candidate that they think is easiest to beat and beat them, or elevate a candidate that they like and can control and think won't be a real threat if they're in office. One of the two reasons, whether you think that they meant to beat him or not, they did purposely elevate Trump, and they admitted that. And I don't think they meant to publicly, but that's what happened. And Chris Cuomo, told me about it. And I'm just kidding. I don't know if you guys get that reference, but the CNN, when the WikiLeaks things came out, they were like, you're not allowed to look at them. Only I'm allowed to look at them because I'm a trusted news guy. It's like, is that how it works? I don't think so, but whatever. Now moving forward, you have to ask yourself the question, are they elevating Trump because they think he's an easy candidate to beat again? And is it a mistake or is it purposeful? Me personally, I don't rule this out because I'm looking at how people are acting, and it's that easy to move people. It's that easy. It literally already happened. So whether they meant to or not, that happened. And I see so many accounts being like, that's it. Now I have to vote for him. That's it. And I see so many accounts that like him saying, haha, the Democrats think that, this is going to hurt him, but it's really only helping him win the primary. They know that. They've done Pied Piper strategies before. You think and everyone knows, everyone sees that these arrests or indictments are helping him win the primary as long as he's not taken out. If he's taken out, that'll really show a lot. The proof will be in the pudding. But if he isn't by this, you don't think the Democrats know this? You think you're like celebrating as if they don't know this? Of course they know. So why would they do this? To me, whether you like Trump or DeSantis, or trust Trump or DeSantis more or less, or whatever, you don't trust either of them, I think it's pretty obvious to people that are honest, DeSantis probably would beat Biden by 5 to 10 points, and Trump is going to go neck and neck. Trump can beat Joe Biden. I think it's possible. A shoe could beat Joe Biden. Trump and Biden is the perfect matchup for both sides because I feel like the best candidate Trump can run against is Biden, and the best candidate Biden can run against is Trump. If they ran Gavin Newsom, I think Trump would be in trouble. If the right picked DeSantis over Biden, I think the left is in trouble. So, I think that Trump wants Biden there and Biden wants Trump there if they're smart because they match up well against each other. It's going to be like a coin flip. I think Trump is going to be a slight favorite, maybe with the betting odds, but, a lot of people like Trump and a lot of people don't like Trump. We've already done this election. People are tired of it. So I think it's going to come down to a few states, and that's not good because Pennsylvania, Arizona, they take way too long to count, and I don't trust it, just like everyone else. So I don't think you want to do an election that's close. That's my personal perspective. Either they really hate Trump and they really are going to arrest him, or they're going to try to. Either they want Trump to run and they know he's the weakest candidate to run against Biden, and statistically they have a way better chance of beating Trump than DeSantis, or, divide and conquer. Whether it happens or not, this is another divide and conquer strategy. The left is brilliant at controlling the narrative. So they've now controlled the right-wing narrative without realizing it. Before the Alvin Bragg arrest, there was intelligent discussion finally starting to happen. After 2 or 3 years of denial, 2 or 3 years of pathological liars calling themselves secret decoders and brainwashing a bunch of, MAGA moms into believing that it's a Nancy Drew mystery and Trump's working with, Mike Lindell and underground basis, or like that was all starting to fade. And people were like, okay, I'm starting to come to reality. We need to have a real conversation. Now there is no conversation. The conversation basically that is dominating right-wing pages is Trump is the victim. Trump is the persecuted. He's the one. I have to vote for him. I have no other choice now. And then when you ask people why besides that, they can't even think of good reasons. They're like, well, Jeb Bush endorsed DeSantis. It's like, well, Lindsey Graham endorsed Trump. Well, I don't, so that can't be your reasoning. It's like, well, this donor backed DeSantis. You want me to point out 10 donors that back Trump, or the fact that Karl Rove worked with his campaign people? Like, these things are also true to Trump. Well, Paul Ryan, I could prove every reason that people say they don't want to vote for DeSantis. I could show you that Trump's doing the same, if not more, but people don't want to talk about it. So it's like, that can't be your real reason. And that's just my perspective, is people haven't intellectually challenged themselves in a while on the right. And this is like the simple narrative. It's easy to just sell Trump merch and say, Trump's my guy. He's the persecuted. He's the victim. He's my WWE character. It's this versus this. And he's going to do it, even though he didn't, even though he's proven he's not changing. He complains. It's his fault. Like, it's dominating the narrative. Whether you like what I'm saying or not, the left does this, and they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. Everybody thinks like, oh, they don't know what the left voters don't know what they're doing a lot of times, but the left politicians are like evil genius. They know whoever wins the primary, whoever does this, or whether they get Trump or not, they know that they just shut down the conversation on the right. They know that there's going to be no intellectual debating about this or that. It's going to be ugly. Trump's making it ugly. He's not really sticking to like, this is why I'm the best. He's like, you need to be loyal to me. Screw you if you even challenge me. Who cares if I lie about COVID data? Like, I'm your guy. I'm your liar. I'm your vaccine salesman. Just shut up and like it. Accusing others of what he's doing. His base now has the most ridiculous double standards. If you could point out the rhino connections to Trump, they don't care because they have double standards. They're all hypocrites. So I'm not saying you're like that if you vote for him necessarily, but it's gotten ugly. And it's not just because of what the Democrats did, but they're controlling the narrative. You're not going to have these discussions about who's better at hiring, who's better at this, who's better at that. You can have a little, but most of the base has now been conditioned to say Trump is the persecuted one. I have to vote for him. And the polls have swung 40 points specifically because he's gotten persecuted. Either they really hate the guy, they want him to go to jail, or they know that he's the easiest person to beat against Joe Biden, and it would be a lot more beneficial for them to run. I think DeSantis beats Biden by 10 points. I think he gets Elon Musk behind him, the Joe Rogans of the world behind him. A lot of moderates have been waiting for somebody to back. Most people don't agree with what they're doing to the kids. Most people don't agree with all the propaganda everywhere. There's a huge movement now of the silent majority of people who actually agree with you, but they don't want to attach to your train because they're embarrassed by how some people are acting. So there's a lot of people ready to vote for Republicans over Biden. But if you give them Trump, you're just running back 2020. It's going to be a coin flip. And, judging on mass mail-in ballots, it's probably not going to go well. You don't want this next election to go down to a few points. Let me know what you guys think, but that's really my take for today. On that note, is whether you are voting for Trump, whether you're voting for DeSantis, whether you're voting for RFK, whether you're sitting out, I think the truth is psychologically, if they don't put Trump away with this, they're helping. They're basically giving him the Republican primary. And this is not really my opinion. You look at every data point from everything. Before the Alvin Bragg thing, it was going to be a competition. Now, if people don't have critical thinking skills anymore, or this is what decides it for them, that's what it is. My vote counts as one. Your vote counts as one. If the Republican base has decided Trump is the wholly persecuted one, he has to be our guy now, then the Democrats essentially just handed Trump the primary. If he doesn't get arrested, which I hope he doesn't, he just basically won. He doesn't even really have to debate or campaign. It's his. I mean, unless people really over the next year wake up. But this is really what I want to say also is I don't see it really happening because it's going to drag out forever. People can't, if I say something that I would have said 2 weeks ago, people will tell me now's not the time. Well, when's the time to say it? Because we're supposed to have a Republican primary, and this is going to drag out for the whole Republican primary. This is going to resurface as soon as people are starting to make their decision, and it's going to peek its head above right when everybody's about to vote. This will dominate the Republican narrative. So there's never going, you get what I'm saying? The Democrats have now basically given it to Trump, and there's never going to be a time to have a conversation about this stuff because it's like the conditioning is like, well, he's a rhino. Well, he's a globalist. Well, he's a sellout. How come DeSantis is a rhino globalist that can't be trusted because Jeb Bush likes him more than Trump? But Trump isn't a rhino globalist because he's backed by Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham says there's no Trumpism without Trump. How come? How come Trump's not a globalist when he did the globalist vaccine and he met with Bill Gates in 2018, offered him a White House position, and then took his universal flu vaccine executive order and passed it through legislation in 2019? How come Trump's not a global? There's the double standards are ridiculous. I'm not asking people to trust DeSantis, but the base has become a bunch of hypocrites now because the Trump worship is so strong. It's like, he's our guy. Everyone else is a traitor, and that's just the narrative we're going with. To me, this is the Democrats controlling the narrative. Whether it's for this reason, that reason, this reason, they've handed the primary to Trump. There is no conversation. There's never going to be a time to talk about it, and he doesn't have to really debate about what he didn't do. I mean, people will figure it out, but what do you guys think? Do you think that it's going to be competitive, or do you think that they gave it to Trump? That's my take. Without this charge, it's going to be close. Trump could win, DeSantis could win, but they're going to have to debate and really prove it. With the Alvin Bragg charge and this charge, I mean, just look at every poll, and I'm not just talking about the sneaky polls. I'm talking about conservative pages. It's all 65% Trump, 35% DeSantis. This handed Trump the election, whether you like him or not, voting for him or not. To me, I don't think it's random. That's my opinion. I don't think the Democrats are stupid. And, I find it very suspect. The only thing I'll say before I leave is please just use critical thinking skills, whether you vote for him or not. Don't be so controllable, because if you do this and then if they do this and you do this, they know that the Patriot Act, the Iraq War, they know how to trigger conservatives to jump to this side or do this or support this war. So just don't be so predictable. That's all I ask. Use your critical thinking skills, make a decisions based off logic and reason, and don't let the Democrats, manipulate you so much. That's my thoughts. God bless you guys. I want to end this before an hour.